Hey, welcome back to Matt and Dwight Just Might, a podcast about two, I don't want to say best friends, but close friends. Am I your best friend, Dwight?
Because you're my best friend.
Okay.
Best friend. I don't know how the song goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that even a song? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it sounded more like a jingle for like a, I don't know.
Yeah.
Remember
For like a
My
Mayo
Buddy?
commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you look at me and you think, Matt's best friend is probably mayonnaise. Yeah. I see how you get there. Yeah.
See, I know that's how well I know you. I know you that well. You really put me on the spot there.
I know, I did.
Like,
this is a gotcha podcast.
I know. I was waiting for a bunch of L's to come at me, and he was like, validate me as your best friend ever.
I know I'm not your best friend because your wife is your best friend and my wife is my best friend, and we are legally required to say that. And so, once you get the government involved, that's how you got to roll. You got to say that.
True story. Those are the real sponsors of the podcast. We talk about it every week.
100%. Yeah.
So shout out to our wives.
Yeah. Are you telling me that Megan bought you that microphone that you're holding? Is that like a gift that she got you?
No, this is me. If she bought me a microphone, it would look more like yours.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be a professional.
She dropped some money on it. Okay.
Yeah. She's like, you're only going to buy one of these, so might as well. And I'm like, what if we just test it out for but I think this mic is much better than what we started with.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah. You could be double mic. You could have your headset mic down too. You could
my pilot mic.
Yeah, we could get you your drive-through mic. I was thinking more like the drive-through at a fast food place, but yeah.
The first few episodes of this show, I did wear this microphone, and it sounded like I was just in a tunnel, getting lost, echoey. It sounded real bad. So we're in the blue snowball.
All right, I think
it's better.
No, it definitely sounds good. Yeah, you sound good. No, for those of you that are new to the podcast and are wondering, does it always get off the rails this early? Yeah, basically. We're not a very smooth production. We like to just keep it raw, baby. Yeah. Just like Old Dirty Bastard.
I likes it raw. This is a very there's typically no edits.
No.
The only time there are edits are when we say something offensive, and then we're like, maybe we shouldn't.
Not even offensive. We just say somebody's name that we probably shouldn't have. And then I'm like, I usually text you as soon as we're done. It's like, hey, can you take that out? And then you bleep it the first time and then let it fly the other 17 times you said the person's name. I had a few people message me, go, yeah, he just bleeped it that first time. And then you guys kept bringing it up throughout the podcast with the person's name. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, man, so, I am a professional.
There's a little Easter egg for the new listeners. You can go back to old episodes of the podcast. And our lack of professionalism is a little extra nugget for you of hot goss. So there you go.
Yeah. I am not good at this. I spent 20 minutes Googling how to make the beep noise, and then not execute it properly. So
it's all right. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, once we get on that Joe Rogan network, we'll have somebody to do that for us. I'm assuming he has his own network. This is how little I know about Joe Rogan's podcast. He has to have his own network that he owns as well, right?
I don't know if he owns it. I know that Spotify paid him a lot of money. So
right.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So he probably was independent, and then he just took that big payout to go to Spotify.
Yep,
probably
exclusive.
Okay.
Gotcha. And he doesn't edit his podcast, so I think we're on the right track.
Okay, yeah,
following the footsteps.
Yeah, yep. That's our role model, everybody. After this, I'm gonna go eat some chemicals that were meant for animals, and then I'm gonna wrestle a man, and that's gonna make me funnier and a better human being.
Alpha brain, baby.
Alpha brain. No, for those of you that are new to the podcast, what a weird episode to start with. We are two comedians based in the Midwest of varying levels of success, depends on the day. And this podcast is about us just kind of breaking it down, what that's like to be a working comedian based in the Midwest, trying to figure it out as you make your way through life, love, laughter, low expectations.
Yeah, definitely that. We're full limestone season.
Yeah, and we're in our festival prep season right now for sure. Dwight, so I know we have two listener questions that we're going to get to today, so we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on our own bullshit, he said, as he just spent 6 minutes literally rambling.
It's a full mailbag episode. I will tell you, that I was in Oklahoma City last week.
Yep, that's how I wanted you to recap real quickly where you were last week.
Yeah, I did the Bricktown Club there. It's a newer club. I had not been to that area. The area is called Bricktown. It's like the neighborhood, and it's like, all hotels and cool restaurants, and it's canal, and they do boat tours, and it's really cool. Much better than the north side of Oklahoma City, which is just like, okay, who decided to build it's like built by the Sims network. It's just all cookie cutter. Like, yeah. So this was really cool. Did 4 shows. Our Cinco de Mayo late show got canceled due to low tickets, but I featured for Sarah Colonna, and the club's great. I had a fantastic time. Fun sets, one bad. It's late show Saturday, man.
Yeah, wait, that was the one that got canceled, or the late show Friday did?
Late show Friday, yep.
And then late show Saturday was a shit show.
Oh my god, best show ever. the first show, and then the late show, it was just like the dredges. These people hadn't slept since Cinco de Mayo the night before. Of course, there was a bachelorette party, and it was one of those times where I was like, thank God I'm not headlining.
Yeah.
Let me do my 30 minutes and sit in the back of the room while the headliner handles these people getting served more and more shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was overall great. I love the club. I love all those clubs that are part of this chain. There's Miss Pac-Man in the green room.
Snacks. Lots of snacks.
Snacks galore.
And good food at the club, and they treat you right, even as the feature. We've talked about the Bark Entertainment clubs before. They're one, in my opinion, maybe the best chain working right now today. I would say Helium, but Helium hasn't returned my call since my disastrous comedy special that was released on their network. So I'm going to go with Bark as being the best comedy chain in America right now. Helium, if you're listening, I could change that review. That ranking could change real easily.
It's important.
Just, return a brother's email. Just return a brother's email. That's all I'm asking for,
Hit my man up. Oh, man.
Well, that sounds really good. I had one show this weekend. I was on Saturday. I was in Seymour, Indiana, at the Pacey Apothecary, which is it's a really cool thing, man. Like, Seymour's a small town, as it has been documented in song by John Mellencamp, its most famous, person to ever come from there. It is a small town, but it has this thing going on in the downtown area where younger people are coming back home and they're investing in the community and they're opening things, right? And that's definitely the case of what Pacey Apothecary was. It's this young couple, Seth and Tanya, probably maybe in their early 30s or so, who bugged out as soon as they could, traveled all over the world. They were like just traveling like bartenders and servers, and they did like all these odd jobs just to like do the van life thing. But then they decided to come home and make something cool in their hometown. And it's like, it's like it's a little gift shop kind of thing, very lefty, very like witchy, lots of crystals and stuff like that, And they decided to start having these comedy shows. I don't know if it's every month or every other month or however. I think I was like maybe the third or fourth one that they have done. And it's full of people. And they ran it a little oddly where there was a local guy who is the host, and he does a very quick host set, and then he brought me up, and then I did 45, and then there was an intermission for everyone to go outside to smoke and to buy more beers. Okay. Because I guess they just don't want people getting up in the middle of the show to buy beers or whatever in the back of the room, and so they built this into like this system. And then the second show, there's basically 2 shows, essentially 2 mini shows. So then after the intermission, the host went back up again, did another short host set, and then he brought up Devin Glass, who did 42, I think, for the second half of it. And it was a ton of fun. They were like a little rowdy. Like there was definitely people in the front row that were like some wild women in their 50s that were on gummies and were slamming those Coors Lights. But it never got out of control, and they were good sports about stuff. Like Devin spent a lot of time kind of like just particularly shitting on this one woman, but she was super into it.
Yeah, that's what she came there for.
Yeah, and she came there for it, and he has a lot of stuff about growing up white trash, and then she was all about like, I'm white trash, and then he just ran with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I think it's cool whenever we can do shows and like unique spaces like that. It's definitely a different vibe, you know.
Yeah, what you just described was from Schitt's Creek, David's Apothecary.
Yeah.
In Seymour, Indiana, this place has no business existing outside of good-natured people wanting to do cool shit in weird spaces.
Yeah, and there was a couple other like things like that along the little main street drag there too, that obviously were kind of newer businesses that were trying to make it happen. And so it was cool, man. It was a good fun show. I did almost no new stuff. It was just like, nah, this is one of those situations. You just got to do the hits, baby. You just got to go in there, and I also did some crowd work too. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was it. Not a lot to report there. Because I do want to dedicate a good amount of time on these two questions that we have. Let's real quick get out of the way our plugs. Let's plug what you got.
Plug
this week coming up. Where can we find Dwight Simmons this week?
This is May 10th, and tonight I will be in Lafayette, Indiana at the Knickerbocker Saloon. I haven't been to Lafayette in a minute, so hopefully we get some people out there. And then from Thursday, the 11th to Sunday, the 14th, Mother's Day, I will be at Go Bananas in Cincinnati. Excited.
Yeah, it's killing it, man.
It's been a long time since I've been back there. So,
and are you headlining Go Bananas?
I am.
Hell yeah, dude. Is that your first time headlining it?
It is my first time headlining it.
All right.
And I'm grateful. Don't take it as I'm not grateful. But there was a time where I was like, these motherfuckers hate me. I can't get a return email to save my damn life. But they I'm really excited. I love that club.
This is an important thing. You know, we've talked about it many times on this podcast about how it can feel very personal. We've given this advice to other comics, right? Mm-hmm. But we are also comics. We also get into that same mindset too of like, you know, bookers are incredibly busy. They get an insane amount of emails, but it is very easy to take it personally and to be like, why doesn't this club, like, I mean, you know, I've been going through that a lot lately. Cause I mean, my booking, I've been swinging and not getting any connections on booking stuff. And, you know, and you just have to remember that like there's ebbs and flows and there's droughts and then it all happens all at once and stuff. But it doesn't prevent me from still getting in my feelings and just thinking like, well, I don't know, maybe I should check out LinkedIn. I guess comedy's over. Nobody wants to book me. So I guess I'm just gonna, I mean, that's the real thoughts that I had. Like, you know, like
seriously. Yeah.
There's like an arts administration job that's come open here in Bloomington that a couple of people have like, hey, you'd be really good for that. And I'm like, I don't want to do that job. But then, you know, after sending out another round of monthly, you know, avails and getting like no responses, it's like, I don't know, maybe I should apply for that job.
Oh man, it's true.
It's real.
If you don't want to end your career, it is important to accept that is a normal part of doing this and not to lash out. And like I could have sent off like an angry email. Oh, you guys, because comics have done this. Like, comics have done the thing where they're like, they take it so personally that they go full Tupac hit 'em up, and it's like, that's not good for anything. Like, you just prove that you're a nightmare and you're a little baby bitch if you don't get your way.
Yeah, but also like for those of you that have the good sense not to do that, don't internalize it too much. Don't let it eat away at you. Like, you know, like I didn't fire off any emails or public posts or whatever, but it still was. And I have a lot of years of experience of going through times like this. I mean, this is not new. You know, there's been a lot of times in my career that nobody wanted to reply to my email.
Yeah. Seasoned vet, baby.
Yeah. And so it's just trying to, you know, have that sort of recall and presence of mind to remember that, as opposed to get caught up in the emotions of like, nobody likes me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe they never liked me. I don't know what's going on here. You know, like all that kind of negative self-talk that can kind of run away with itself, you know.
That's not going anywhere. I agree with you, man. I agree with you.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're there at Go Bananas. Remind them that I exist. While you're I do love that club, but it's one of those clubs that I don't work very often. Like I've been lucky enough to feature there off and on over the years, but it's been very hit or miss. And I would love to, so just thanks for bringing me along as your feature. I appreciate that, Dwight. And
happily, Matt.
This is the last episode of the podcast.
Yeah, this is. Wow, this best friendship.
I'm not your best friend. I'm not your best friend, and you're not bringing me a feature. I'm not even your best feature. Okay,
best friendship built on twigs.
like the very best of them are.
Yeah.
All right. So coming up though, I have a couple things on the 10th when this posts. I will be managing this very bizarre private event thing that I'm doing here in Bloomington that will certainly be good fodder for the next week's episode of the podcast. Essentially I'm hosting a stand-up comedy show that is a corporate training thing at the same time. For IU Kelly School of Business reached out to me to basically, I'll talk about it more next week. But essentially I'm running an open mic that is a closed open mic for 27 executives and CEOs who have watched some instructional videos of me doing very shortened versions of the stand-up class that I teach in a video format, who are supposed to bring 3 minutes of material to do. And this is some sort of team building exercise that they're doing as part of a week-long corporate training thing at IU.
This sounds terrible bizarre. And delicious.
Yeah, bizarre.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be real bizarre for sure. And so, I got paid pretty well. And the people at IU Kelly School of Business have been actually super dope to work with. The people that are running this thing are rad. Yeah. We'll see how this goes, but it's definitely going to be one of these things where I don't know if you've ever been to an open mic where every single person performing is wealthy.
Oh God.
But that's what this is going to be, because it's all upper management CEO type level. From what I understand, it's not even like managers. These are like owners of business companies and owners of businesses. And like, I think the low person on the totem pole, from the way that I understand this, will be like the CFO,
Oh man.
So it's going to be very interesting to say the least. So
I cannot wait until next week.
Yeah.
God, what a train wreck.
A little teaser there for anybody. I mean, hopefully hopefully everybody comes to it with the right spirit and they all have fun, and we'll see how it goes. But
they'll just reminisce about like mega layoffs.
Yeah.
The time that we got to fire a swath of people, and we built 5 minutes of jokes.
Yeah. The hilarious thing about outsourcing is it's the second house that bought me. And by second, I mean 30 seconds.
I love AI.
But then the regular people, the common people, can see me perform stand-up comedy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa this weekend, the 12th and the 13th. I'm headlining the Lucky Cat Comedy Room. I've actually performed there a couple times before. It was a full-time comedy club back when it was just the brewery, and then Haley and her husband decided to go all in on comedy and converted their brewery to a full-time comedy club, and I'm very excited to go back there and headline that. So tickets for that are available online. Again, that is Lucky Cat Comedy Room, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Tickets for your Go Banana shows are at gobananas.com. Is that their website, I think? Go Bananas Comedy?
Yeah, it's Go Bananas Comedy. I send everyone to my website, dwightsimmons.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's all linked there. So
okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the questions. We have 2 questions for this week. If you are a listener and you've always wanted to send in a question, we'd love to get one from you. You can do that by emailing us at mattanddwight@gmail.com. That is MATANDDWIGHT@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. For this one, let's do Shanda's part 2. Shanda Sung sent in a 2-parter question, and we took the first one on last episode. This one is a good one too, for comics of all different levels. So I think it's a great question for the podcast. So thank you for asking it, Shanda. She asks about merch etiquette. When are you too green for merch? How to do the merch pitch without making everyone in the room hate you? And who do you ask about merch selling? Do you ask the headliner if you're a feature? Do you ask the booker? Do you ask fest organizers, etc.? So for all the different situations in which you might be doing merch, like what's the right etiquette about the ask of is it okay to do that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in here because I just dealt with this. Like, I'm just starting to work this chain of clubs, and so I don't know what their policy is. So when I'm booked to feature, my thing is to ask the person who booked me, is it okay? Like, obviously, I could probably just read the email. I was just like, obviously, I'm going to ask the headliner, but is it cool with the club and you guys if I sell merch? And that's just when I'm booked. They responded and said, sure, just make sure you ask the headliner. And then just, I think especially if you don't know the headliner, ask the headliner, like couple of, like when you meet, just some niceties. And then, before the show starts, hey, do you mind if I sell merch this weekend? And the answer should always be yes. Like they shouldn't care.
Yeah.
But you do get the occasional, please don't. Or I've even had this where someone's like, yes, but just don't do it right next to me. Or like, yeah, like they don't want it. Like they have a very specific way that they want to structure how they shake people's hands and take pictures. Right. And they don't want you like selling merch right next to them. But it's just that is the definition of merch etiquette. It's like the answer should be yes, but you at least show that you're respectful enough to do it, Yeah.
Counterpoint, I say no, fuck all those people. You just show up, you sell what you got. You don't ask anybody, man.
Your whole set should start with the merch pitch. Open with the merch pitch.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's good to be here. I got stickers.
It should just be a merch pitch, the entire set. No, you nailed it. You just ask everyone politely. And again, the answer should always be yes. If a headliner says no outright, put them on blast as much as you can without hurting your career. Let everybody in your private comedy group thread know that that comic is an asshole. Because that means that they don't remember what it was like to be a feature, or maybe they never were a feature. They don't understand that for features on the road, merch is how you make money, because most of the time the feature pay, you're breaking even or barely making any money to do it. And so merch is where you actually get in the black and stay in the black. And so, yeah, they definitely should do that. Most clubs are always, almost every club. I've never had a club say no. The only time that I've had a thing happen is I've had people say, what are you selling? And then if you like say, well, I've got t-shirts or whatever, then they might say, cool, I also have a t-shirt. I sell it for this much. Can you not undercut my price? Can we price match? Right. Totally fine. Which is it's still a little weird because it's also like, you're the headliner that everybody came to see. You're still going to automatically probably going to sell more merch than the feature.
Yeah. People aren't bargain shopping at the merch table. Typically they're there to support the comedy that they like.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, but you do run into that sometimes. And, it's like, okay, yeah, and I've done the thing. I think the person basically was selling their shirts for like $5 more than what I normally sold mine for. And I was like, okay, well, tonight I'm just going to sell it for this much, and I do that still out of courtesy too. Like when I have koozies now. And when I sell my koozies, I go with the pay what you want model. Because I find it's way more lucrative, because koozies are not very expensive per koozie to get made. And so really, if anybody gives you $1, you're making a little bit of money on it. And the pay what you want, it's people so often will throw down a 10 or a 20.
Yep.
And then if they throw down a 20, I'm always like, do you want change? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, well then take 2. But I still just made like $18 profit on those 2 koozies I gave away. Now I have feature for people that also have koozies and they don't do that.
Yeah.
And then I don't do it if they're not doing it. If they're doing like koozies are $2 or $3, they have a set price for their koozies, then I'm not going to pay what you want, because it's just a courtesy thing at that point. Without them even telling me to do it. So just use your best sense about that. Now
are you going to talk about the greenness?
Yeah. So when you're too green for merch, I personally think that if you are not featuring, you should not be selling merch. No one should be selling merch from a guest set or from a host spot. Now, that being said, I have sold merch from a guest spot before when I've been on tour. And I don't know if this technically counts as like a guest spot. Oh, I did. Yeah. When I hosted for Ben Branner, but he made me do it.
Yeah.
He was like, he's like, my fans love merch. He's like, if you have merch in your car, go get it.
Yeah.
And so I sold from the host spot, which I didn't even talk about my merch though. He gave me a space on his table, like we all, and same thing, like Andrew Rudick was doing a guest spot that he made Andrew sell.
Yeah.
Like, so we're all there next to each other selling. And he been such a great dude. He made sure that we did that because me and Andrew made a ton of money that night because Ben's fans were so great.
Right.
And supportive. But generally speaking, it's really seen as a bad move to try to sell merch if you're not at least featuring or headlining. If it's you're doing it from a guest spot or the host spot, now you're kind of eating into the merch sales of the feature or the headliner who are almost certainly on the road and away from home and could use that money.
Yeah.
If you're hosting or you're doing a guest spot, usually that's at your home club or a club that's close enough that you just drove to and driving back that night. So then to try to sell merch from there, you are potentially eating into those other comics' profits, and it's just a bad look.
So. Yeah, 100%. It's also if you're emceeing, or I know we're talking club specifically, if you're emceeing, your goal is to continue to get work and to move up. It's not necessarily to make money. You know, it's like
at that point in time,
yeah, like your goal is to continue to get better, focus on your sets, run the show well, and then move up. Just like what Matt said, the feature and headliners, like especially featuring, you need to do this so that you can eat and pay for your gas and like do all these things. So it's the focus of the weekend. It changes. And so when we're talking about like common courtesy and etiquette, just keep that in mind. Like, I don't want to make like hard rules. I've seen MCs. It was annoying as hell. I had an MC sell merch because the headliner was just nice and said they asked, and like we said, the answer should always be yes. It's not going to say no. You can't sell your stickers or whatever, but it's just like it is a little clutter. It's just definitely like it's easy to say use your common sense when a lot of people that get into this do not have that skill set.
True. Good reminder. That attribute. Good reminder.
So like, I think when you're around this enough, you pick up enough good habits and bad habits, or you just, you know, get advice from people that know what they're doing, that you can read each situation for itself.
Right. Yeah. So, I think that's an excellent point. And then also one addendum to that, I would say if it's more of an independent show and it's more of a showcase where everybody's doing the same amount of time, like it's a bunch of comics doing tens, then yeah, there might be somebody at the end who's quote unquote headlining, but really you're all on equal footing there. And if every one of those comics sells merch, it's fine. You know, again, it's kind of a clusterfuck on the merch table because it can get out of hand if everybody has a bunch of shit. You know, that's the other thing is like I think it's good to have no more than a couple of things. Like I currently have 3 things and I think it's too much. Like I have t-shirts I'm still trying to sell through. I've got koozies, and then I've still got CDs from the dark ages that I'm trying to still get rid of. So I like it better when it's just like 2 things. You have 2 options, like here's a koozie and something else or whatever. But yeah, if you have 10 comics on a showcase show and they all have merch, and it's gonna look like an apothecary in there.
Oh, this merch table is nice. Yeah, I'm selling my scented candles and
I've seen comics do salts. Comics do all kinds of crazy stuff, man. Dave Yates was selling hot sauce, hot sauce, which I have in my fridge and I use all the time. So it's tasty, everybody. One thing about Shanda's question about who do you ask that we did kind of gloss over was talking about festival organizers. Festivals are in a completely different situation because, again, at a festival, now you're talking about a thing that has 40 or 50 comics performing at it usually. Right. I think you just ask them through email when you get confirmed, or like a couple weeks beforehand, like, hey, is it okay if I sell merch after my sets? Is there a centralized merch area? Is things like that. You know, just ask. And if they say no, you know, it's probably just because they don't have a dedicated space for it and that they are trying to flip that room for the next show of the festival. So if people are clogging that up by selling merch, right. You know, we both have worked clubs like, you know, Looney Bin and Little Rock. You actually sell merch outside because they got to flip the room.
Yeah.
So if you've done really well and there's a big line for merch, they don't want those people still in the room while they're trying to vacuum and clean up shit.
But
And
it's
so
February.
I know they do not care.
Like, get your ass outside.
Better wear a coat.
Yeah. You want to make $28?
Yeah, exactly.
Get outside.
So, and then finally, her final part of this question is how to do the merch pitch without making everyone in the room hate you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Nope. I wish I did. No, yeah. I think there's several ways to pitch your merch. I think it has to be unique to whatever you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
I sell a shirt that I don't even take on stage because it's too, like, the design is very intricate, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like I found that when I try to like show it, it's just got like a lot of people like staring, trying to figure out what it was. It's like, oh no, it's the joke I just did.
Yeah.
So like now I sell a lot more of those t-shirts when I'm just like, I have a t-shirt for sale. Come see me. And I used to sell the DMX wristbands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all like trial and error. The way that I would sell those is way different than the way that I would sell t-shirts or like pint glasses. Like I wouldn't take a pint glass on stage like the way I would a koozie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you have something that's relevant to a joke that you have, that you're not gonna like, that's not too distracting, or you're gonna fumble with it a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like I was insecure taking shirts on stage. I was like, oh, they're gonna think I'm, as soon as I get up there and set it down, they're gonna think that I'm just here to sell t-shirts, which 100% true.
Yeah.
But like that's just like a mental barrier that
I
had to overcome to like make myself feel comfortable to sell the thing that I spent a ton of money making.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once I was able to overcome that barrier, it was just easier for me to get in a mind space, get in a rhythm, get in a flow that I could actually pitch it poorly, make fun of yourself, and then like go back into like one or two more jokes. That's typically how I see the most successful merch pitches.
Yeah, I think you definitely came across something really big there at the end, which is you don't want to end on the merch pitch. You always want to then end on like your closer. So you always kind of want to do it right before you do your closer usually. And then I like the idea of if you can make the merch pitch funny, then it goes so much better. This is why I don't like having all these different things, but I have written a joke specifically about having CDs still, right? You know, because it's my second album. It's left over from when we were still doing that kind of stuff. And so what I will do is I'll pick the youngest looking person in the audience, and that's right up front. I'm like, hey, how old are you? And they say like 22 or something, and then I go, okay, so this is a compact disc.
Yeah.
And then I do a little riff about like how they used to be the shit back in the day. And like, you'd have these binders full of them that you'd unzip and flip through while you're driving your car down the interstate. I make a whole thing about it. Right. And then I talk about, this is one of my older albums. I didn't do a joke off here tonight. And then this is the actual joke line that actually sells the CDs, honestly, is then I'm just like, so, come and see me if you're rocking a 2011 Honda Civic.
Oh, yeah.
Like that sort of like little self-deprecating. I know it's ridiculous to be selling CDs. Right.
Right.
So many people come up to me and go, I have a 2007, Ford Fiesta. I'll take one, whatever. Yeah. The shirts, I have a shirt currently. It's just my face. It doesn't have a joke attached to it. So I don't make a lot of jokes about it. Every now and then I'll riff something about it. Yeah. And then my koozie is tied to a joke. And that's an important thing. You kind of, you talked about it for a second, like without talking about it, but the DMX wristbands, if you have a piece of merch that is tied to a specific joke, you have to do that joke in your set to sell the merch, or else it's just not going to sell.
Right.
So for you, that meant you had to do a 15-minute long bit.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's something you definitely want to avoid. And like, I've had stuff like that too. Like, I've had a t-shirt that was the Bloodmouth t-shirt. And then I had the Midnight Nachos t-shirt. So I had all these t-shirts that tied into jokes, but then I always had to do that joke.
You got to do it. Yeah.
Which becomes an albatross, and I just try to get ahead of it because my koozies are tied to a specific joke, but it's a brand new joke that I like a lot that fits really well with the overall theme of the new hour as it's coming together. So I was like, okay, I'm at least not going to be tired of this for a while. Like this is going to be a foundational piece to it. So I think if you can make a little joke about it, if it doesn't tie into a joke. If it does tie into a joke, the time to do the merch pitch is immediately after the joke. Like, you know,
Sure.
if you have a piece, or really soon after, if you open with that joke and then, you know, let's say you're headlining 45 minutes later, you're like, hey, I have this. Remember that joke from the beginning?
Right.
No? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think taking stuff up on stage and showing it helps with sales, but it's whatever you're comfortable with as well, you know? So, and I would say that just for people that are thinking about getting into merch that are at that point, you know, t-shirts are cool. Everybody likes to have a t-shirt with their name on it or a joke on it, but t-shirts are very expensive up front, and they're a pain in the ass because you have to have all these different sizes of shirts.
Right.
And then you get into what I'm into now, which is what happened this weekend in Seymour. Somebody asked for an extra large. It's like, I'm allowed extra large. Okay, I'll take a double X. I'm out of those too.
Yep.
So I'm now stuck with, I have small, mediums, and larges left.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is one day I'm only going to have smalls left.
Does nobody in the country wear a medium shirt anymore? Like, I have so many medium shirts.
Yeah. Yeah. And so t-shirts, I don't think I'm going to do another t-shirt unless I come up with just some amazing design, or I level up to a point where it makes sense to do it. Yeah. From now on, like, I think koozies are great. They're cheap. They're easy. Even if you kind of have one that isn't an instant hit, you're not out a ton of money. You know, you can do a small run of koozies. It's very easy. A lot of people do stickers and pens and stuff. I'm just not personally a sticker or pen person.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't put pens on my jackets. I don't put stickers all over my shit. And so I've never done that, but I have had people ask. So I have been thinking about maybe I will do some stickers.
Yeah.
Just because it seems to be something other people are into.
This last weekend, the last few weekends, I've done just, if you follow me on social media, I'll give you a little sticker. I say it like that. I don't even say what the sticker is, just to like pique people's interest. And then just like another reminder to like, hey, follow me on social media.
That's smart. Yeah.
Just like, you know, I do have a name. Don't go home and be like, that black guy we saw was funny.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, just something to kind of trigger that memory and like pique their interest so they'll come over. But
yeah, that's a great idea.
When I did my pint glasses, it was just a joke about Trump that was super quick. That orange motherfucker ain't my president. And, you know, that's just like that was like an instant hit. I think that's, the wristbands do well, but like you said, I have to do it. I have to dedicate a third of my set, or maybe even half of my set, to doing this bit. And it's kind of a tough bit to get into and out of, because it's so energetic. And if you're like kind of confused, or if you're just in the audience and you're blackout drunk and you're like you're just like in the energy, but you're not really paying attention, you're
not following, because it's a long story. It's a long story piece. Yeah.
So I recommend against that. I recommend against my style of comedy in general, but I recommend.
Well, it's finally something we agree on. It's finally something we agree on, Dwight.
Yeah. I also like the thing with how to do it without making people hate you. I think that's just like a mental thing that you have to get over. Most people that go to comedy shows that are going to buy merch, they want to support you no matter what the merch is anyway. Yeah. So try not to frame it in, if I sell something, these people are going to hate me. People want to know how they can support you if they like you. Yeah. So if you're getting booked, like, people are going to like you. So yeah,
that's the biggest part of it, is like, so many people come and buy merch that they, you know, there's definitely some people like, oh, this is so clever and I really like this or whatever. You know, like, I have figured out a way to do the sales pitch on my koozies now that does hit a specific target of people. Yeah. Like, that will come up and will always buy it because of that one like little line that I did when I was doing the merch pitch about it. But there's also people just think you're funny and they think you're great, and they'll just come up and they'll be like, how much are the koozies? How much are the t-shirts? And then they just pick what level of money they want to give you, because they just liked you, you know. Or you also see that the guy just buys the t-shirt for his girl who clearly doesn't even want the t-shirt. He's just like, hey, we did the thing. We went out. This is like our date night, and I'm gonna get you the shirt now. You know,
he brings it up 6 months later. Like, I've got you that goddamn t-shirt.
Yeah. So so just try to, you know, I think that we've covered it really well. I think if you are at that level, which Shanda is certainly at that level, she's featuring and headlining, she should have merch now. And you know, just try to make it clever, and don't do shirts.
Do shirts if you're Brent Terhune.
Yeah, but I'd say that even Brent would say that his koozies are way bigger hits than his shirts are, you know.
Sure.
And his koozie is probably the best comedy merch I've ever seen in my life. The emotional support beer koozie is
fantastic.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Also,
it's
like,
perfect.
Sells that shirt with Q is just with its wiener hanging out, and I've never seen anyone sell like it's like Bruce level. Like, yeah, because he has the bit where he's like, if you wear this to work, they'll just give you a day off.
Right. Yeah. He wrote a joke. He wrote a joke around the merch pitch. Yeah. The same thing. Yeah. There is that before we move out of the merch thing, we should address the reality, which is there are a lot of people who go to comedy shows in the Midwest and the South, particularly, who the cruder the t-shirt is, the more it's like something from a Spencer Gifts, the more you're going to sell. Like I used to always say, like the best comedy merch would just be a t-shirt that just said "Who sharded?" Like that you would sell so many of those shirts, you know. But I mean, I've seen comics that sell like, you know, the Q is just with his wiener out. It's like it's its own self-contained joke on a t-shirt. It's a little dirty, you know.
It's
and
not
so and so that people love that shit, you know. So, you know, I don't know, maybe do that. All right, let's get to the second question. Which good, we can dedicate about 15 minutes to this. Thank you, Shanda, for that question. Appreciate it very much. This next question comes from another Bloomington comic, Natalie Bainter. Thank you, Natalie, for sending in your question. She says, hello, friends. See, she's willing to call me your friend. Why don't you tell me that I'm your best friend? Why
am I gonna have to intro me saying that we're friends and then you turn it on me?
Yeah,
it's gonna be that's gonna be a clip that we share this week.
All right. Hello, friends. I've really been enjoying the pod. Thank you, Natalie. It's very nice of you to say. Love the discussion on writing and writing partners, and made me feel less alone about some of my own feelings. Great. I'm glad that we could do that. I truly have been learning a lot, both about comedy and about you two. And I think it's very refreshing how open you all are with information and advice in a format that's free and welcoming for everyone. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate it. That's really lovely of you. Now, she has a very strategic question for us. She says it's 2 parts, but she'll try to keep it brief despite her literary background.
She blew it already.
And I'm sorry, we're out of time. Part 1. What are the best practices for hosting / being a good host? Another way to say this is, what sorts of things do great hosts do? Dwight, you want to take first on this?
I love this question.
This is a fantastic question.
Oh, yeah. So the way that I look at this may be different, but I look at the host as the person running the show, the person that's in charge of the show flow, the energy. You're the first person they see when, you know, you're the first person to come on stage. You set the tone for the night. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be Steve Harvey on Def Comedy Jam hosting the Kings of Comedy and come up there like, hey, motherfuckers, if you don't stand on your feet and kick over a chair. And I mean, that might get you several shows on daytime TV, but
yeah, I was gonna say, like, that'll get you you'll be appointed a judge.
Yeah, I know. I don't know
if you've seen this, but Steve Harvey is now a judge, apparently. Judge Steve Harvey is his
I have
newest
not
TV
seen
show.
this.
You think I'm making this up? No, he has his own daytime. Yeah.
The hilarious thing is that I know you're not making it up, and it's not that shocking to me.
Yeah.
So the thing that I want to convey here is confidence. I want you to go up with like, this is my show. There are ways that you can do that. So knowing what your expectations are before the show starts. What does the club want from you? Do they want you to do the announcements? Do they want you to, you know, have the audience fill out the comment cards between the feature and the headliner? Like, what do you need to do for the club? The next thing is researching the headliner. Okay, if it's a club show or if it's like a structured show with host, feature, headliner, research the headliner, know some things about them before you even meet them. So like, just go to their website and be like, all right, just take like 2 or 3 credits, just know it, like watch a clip, like know their style, and then that will help you kind of recall. Because I feel like, you know, if the club is giving you a lot of information, it's just overwhelming sometimes.
Right.
So like let's get that headliner, like their bio kind of singed into our head. And then we can go into when we're at the club, talking to the comics on the show, asking how they want to be brought up, making sure that we pronounce their name correctly. And it's okay to ask. Like I've seen,
yes, it's way better to ask than to take a stab at it, you know.
Young buck named Dwight Simmons back in the day.
Whatever happened to that guy?
That guy. We won't talk about him. I was hosting for Keith Alberstadt at Crackers, and I I had checked, but like sort of. I was like, it's Alberstadt. I was afraid to ask him. I thought I'd look ridiculous and stupid if I didn't know how to pronounce his last name. First show of the week, I go up, have a great set from the host, which is not easy to do from the host spot at Crackers because they want you to do all the announcements and then get into it. But had a great set, and I was so excited. And I say, you guys excited for your headliner? Keith Apple
Bottom.
Keith. And I just said Keith, and I did the gesture where I was like, come to the stage, Keith.
Yeah.
I felt like, I thought the world was gonna end. I wanted to like hide under a couch. Whereas I'm like, why did I not just ask him? And he even asked me after the show, he's like, it's fine, it happens.
Yeah.
Especially, but like even with this weekend, the host had to be corrected on the headliner's name, Sarah Colonna. She's like, I think he said Sarah Colonna.
Yeah.
And it's Sarah Colonna. And she's like, think Corona. And it was just like, he was asking for advice, just like, ask before. I know you're trying to get your set together, but like ask like just so that you're sure, even if it seems like it's something simple.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. And again, it's way better to ask than to try to wing it and embarrass yourself. And most people will be good sports about it because it does happen, but there are also comics that will be complete assholes about it too. Yeah. Unfortunately. So I think that's definitely all very good advice. I think some sort of pragmatic things are, I always look at the idea of the host when I started off hosting, and even when I feature for somebody, unless I know them really well, I follow a general rule of thumb, which is you shouldn't be too dirty, too political, or too weird. And too polarizing in any particular way, because particularly from the host spot, you're the first comic that they see. And if you are super dirty, that's going to turn a lot of people off. Maybe the feature is a clean comic. You're really just changing the energy in the room in a way that's not your right to do. And so be funny, but just do it without being, same thing with like, I'm not saying you can't have like a sex joke or innuendo or something like that. But if, we all know comics who get up there and they're just absolutely filthy. And that should not be the first thing anybody sees at a comedy show, unless it's specifically billed as a dirty show. Yeah. You're just, as the host, you're just trying to get people out of the mindset of like, they just got off work. They just came downtown. They just paid for parking. Maybe they went to dinner beforehand. Maybe they're trying to order their dinner now at the comedy club. You're really, as the job as a host, you're just trying to get everybody kind of laughing and going and into the idea of like, okay, we're here. This is the space we're in. We're focused in this direction. This is what we're doing, is we're listening to people tell jokes. Which is why I always tell a host, like, if you start off cold as a host, but you have them laughing by the end of your set, you did great. You did great. You did exactly what you're supposed to do as a host, which is you got them warmed up and opened up to the idea of, being at a comedy show and laughing at things. So I think shot selection is important. We all have dirty jokes. We all have political jokes. But knowing when you can do those and when you can't is, I think, important. And it's a maturity level thing of a comic. So just knowing that you can go in there and be funny without being incredibly divisive, you know.
I thought something that the host, sorry to interrupt, the host did well this weekend was he asked me and the headliners, like, anything you don't want me to discuss. And again, the answer should be no, especially from the feature. Don't pulse the host around, but the headliner should be able to follow stuff unless they are like, I don't I want a clean set. Like a
Right.
couple weeks ago, I had to do a
Mm-hmm.
TV clean set because that's what the show was. So
Right. That's what the
being
headliner
adaptable.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be adaptable and you got to be prepared for that. And so I think it's generally a good rule of thumb to just kind of come prepared to work a little bit on the cleaner side anyway as a host. I also think it's very important too, which is there is an idea of working short to long, which is good for particularly short sets. And if you're the first comic up, which just basically means like, don't start off your 5 to 7 minute host spot with a 3.5 minute long bit that requires a lot of attention and requires there's like it may be like likable and be like, oh, okay, and then there's like a laugh at the end. Like you want to get them laughing quick, like short jokes up top, and then you can work up to more of a quote unquote closer for a host set, which isn't really a thing, but you can work up to maybe like, okay, the last joke was a minute and a half, but all the jokes before that were shorter jokes that we got to the punchline within like 30 seconds, right? You just kind of like, you're getting people like, here's another one. Okay, we're just getting you warmed up to this idea of comedy and laughing at jokes and stuff like that. I think that's all the fundamentals, I think. Being likable from the host spot is very big too.
Sure.
Like it's very hard for people who have a very strange energy, right? Like, so people that are incredibly like dry one-liner comics don't make the best hosts usually. Someone, I think he'll be okay with me telling this story because it's kind of a testament to what a genius he is in a way. But Jonathan Fendler very famously bailed his way into featuring because he did the Morty's residency program where they had him host every single show for a month at Morty's. And so that meant he was hosting for like Def Jam comics, he was hosting for Gary Goldman, he was hosting for a wide variety of comics, every single show for a month. And at the end of it, Bowers and Chris and other people were just like, well, that didn't work. You're clearly very funny, but you cannot be the first comic that anybody sees. So we're just gonna start featuring you, which is like, instead of just saying like we can't work you anymore, they still saw that he was very funny. And they're like, but this can't be the first thing that we see. Now most people have different gears and are more adaptable, and they aren't going to be just very Jonathan Winters-esque, as a way to think of Fendler. Is he's definitely in that kind of vein of like, you might get a character, you never know what's going to happen. So I think being just generally likable and conversational is a great energy for a host, for example, for sure. So I think, what are the things that great hosts do? I think we've kind of covered the bases. Is there anything else? I will say.
I was just gonna say, stay away from crowd work.
Yes,
when you're emceeing, like 100% stay away from crowd work. Your set's too short, and what it does is it sets an expectation that's what the rest of the show is going to be, where you can yell back at the comedian. You can it's just going to be a conversation. And you, even if you're a great host, you don't have enough time to corral the room and reset the expectation to have everybody like shut the hell up. If it's going to be a crowd work show, let it be from either like the headliner spot or sometimes the feature. Like even feature shouldn't be doing a ton of crowd work, but it's like I said, it's your show. You set the tone. So if you set the tone of like, I'm going to go into the audience and start making fun of people, one, it could go terribly. Like it could go so bad. And two, it just, like, to reiterate, it sets that expectation that nobody wants, that it's just going to be like, call and respond type of show. So we definitely want to stay away from that.
That was actually the next thing I was going to say is do not do crowd work. Is the right of the headliner. Even as a feature now, I have like one moment while I'll open it for crowd work for like a split second where I talk about being in my second marriage. Is like, anybody else been married more than once? I have a definite out for that. It doesn't matter what someone says or doesn't say. Like the entirety of a crowd work for that, if I'm in featuring, if I choose to do that bit while I'm featuring, is the crowd work section is maybe 20 seconds long. And then I'm right back into material. So it's completely back into just jokes again before the headliner ever steps on stage. Because you said it. If you open up that door and particularly do a lot of crowd work, like from this person to this person to this person to this person, it's you've created something that every other comic is going to have to deal with when they may not want to do that. Most likely they don't want to do that. So that's definitely something that bad hosts do. Bad host. You're a bad host. Along the same lines of that is don't do a bunch of time in between comics. There is a mindset that hosts will take to a book show, which comes from the idea of hosting an open mic. Hosting an open mic where there's a lot of bad comics in the mix, usually a lot of first timers and things like that. Great hosts will bring the room back to life by doing a quick joke or something. But even then, you got to know it's like cayenne pepper. It has to be used so sparingly. You have to know when to just do a touch of it to bring the room back, because it's also, I think it's bad even when people are hosting an open mic. Open mics are long enough as they already are.
Yeah.
If a comic hosting it still tries to does material between every joke or every comedian, then it just extends the show out. You're making it just like, it's harder for people even really to get into the rhythm of like, okay, here's the next comic. Because now, I will say there are times a very experienced host on an open mic knows when to do that to get the room back, to give the next comic a chance.
Reset the room. Yeah.
Reset the room. Because if the comic before was just god awful or said horrific things, but it's usually not by doing material. It's usually by having a sniper rifle shot on that last comic who just killed the room in a bad way, who just, ruined the room. Like you do a little joke at their expense, or you just address like how horrific their rape joke was. You get everybody back. But on a weekend type show thing, definitely do not be doing bits in between. It's insulting when you, particularly like either way, like you can be a feature and you can have a pretty good set. It didn't go great, but he did all right. And then the host gets up there and starts doing material like, oh, you think you need to get him back from that?
Oof. Yeah.
Or even worse, like you crush and then they go up and then they're like, I'm going to do a joke or two before I bring up that headliner. No. Now you're just trying to ride my coattails.
Yeah.
So it's bad either way to do, in my opinion, to do time between comics for sure.
Yeah. I like, if you are trying to become a better host, which I think everyone should have that skill set, it only helps you down the road. Definitely be trying to host as much as possible. I think hosting an open mic is so chaotic that it, like, if you do it for a while, like if you can find your way into a rotation of hosting an open mic like once or twice a month at like different locations, there's such wild cards that it keeps you engaged, and it's good practice of going back up and giving the room what it needs. Or maybe it doesn't need anything. Maybe I just need to bring up the next comic,
right?
Getting in the habit of like asking people how to pronounce their name, maybe riffing quickly off of someone else's set. You get to do all of these things at an open mic because there's every level of comic.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think it's good. And yeah, so it's definitely different rules apply to hosting an open mic versus hosting on a paid show. But yeah, hopefully this has all been good answers to your question, Natalie. Her part two, we just covered, I think, a little bit, but I'm going to read it just in case anything else sparks from this for you. Her part two is, she asked, what common mistakes do people make when hosting, whether from lack of experience, misunderstanding the assignment, or a third reason? I think we just kind of got into that a little bit with doing material in between, things like that. She's thinking about more subtle things here and less about common sense no-nos, like attacking the audience, other performers, and going too long. So can you think of any subtle things that hosts will do that?
Oh, she doesn't want the example of when we were in Arkansas and the host.
Well, perfect example, because yes, of what I said earlier about not working too dirty.
Yeah.
Like his opening joke was something about eat the pussy from the back. That was his opening line.
I have nightmares.
Yeah. And it like did not get a laugh, and it just got kind of a horrified reaction. And this was like a 7 p.m. show when people are eating dinner. And it's just like, and I'm not saying you can't have an eat a pussy from the back joke as a comic, but it should not be.
We all do.
Host. Yeah, not all of us, but but there, it's just, again, being him just not understanding the assignment of being a host. That guy was just like, oh, I'm just a comic, this is what I do. No. Host is a job. That is a job. And so you need to do the job. Yeah. Like when you work your way up to doing headlining, then yes, it's your show. Do whatever the fuck you want to do, Yeah. Or if you're on a showcase and you have been booked in as a equal performer on a showcase, yes, do your 10 minutes. Whatever you want to do. But the host, it's a job, and the job is to serve the show at large.
Right.
And so you have to come to it professionally and with the right attitude. So
yeah, I think we covered some of the subtle stuff. It's just you always between comics reset the stage to the way it was. Like one of my pet peeves is when the host doesn't reset the stage.
We should say real quickly that you're talking about like put the mic back in the mic stand. Like if the comic before you just handed the mic to you as they walked off stage and shook hands. There's also obviously the tradition of you shake or fist bump the comic's hands coming on and off stage. It's indicative of symbolically passing the microphone, even though you're literally about to pass the microphone. But there's a little like the nicety of it. Right. This is a big one. We kind of skip right. Stay on stage until the comic gets up there. Do not leave an empty stage ever. So even if they're in the back and they didn't hear you, and then you have to, people are clapping, and now they're done clapping, and be like, "Oh no, one more time! He's on his way. Bring up Dwight Simmons already." He's you have to stay on stage. Do not leave stage until the other person has come on stage and you have fist bumped or shook hands for sure. Yeah. The other thing is obviously it's just you as the host, man. You got to watch the show. You never know when the feature's going to bail early, when the headliner is going to bail early. You got to be ready to go back up there when it's your turn to go back up there. So you have to be, I'm not saying you have to watch every single minute. If the headliner just took the stage, go in the green room, chill out for 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. Right. But you have to be ready to get back up there at a moment's notice for sure. Yep.
Stay engaged, because hosting still like the job where you are working from show start to show end. So
definitely. Yeah.
Great question, Natalie.
Thank you
so much,
Natalie. Great question, Shanda. Appreciate both of you listening to the podcast and writing in. Once again, if anybody out there wants to send us a question for us to tackle, you can do that at our Gmail, which is mattanddwight@gmail.com. That is MATANDDWIGHT@gmail.com. I think this is a good one. We got into some real meat and bones. Is that something?
Not from where I'm from.
Okay.
That's not on our weekly menu.
We got into some meaty topics, and we left no meat on the bone. I'm gonna try.
There he is.
I'm gonna try to save this somehow.
We got into some egg noodles, and is just.
Oh man, you hit me with that egg noodles. Now I want some beef stroganoff, man.
Oh man,
with the egg noodles.
Yeah, I'm about to go fire up the grill, so I am just like. I'm like all food, but when you said meat and bones, that kind of ruined my appetite. So I thought I'd get it back.
All right, I'm glad we could stroganoff it all the way back to you. Okay.
Oh man, So we did our dates and all that jazz. You got anything else to tell the people before we peace out?
No, just, if you can like and rate and review the podcast. We hardly ever say that on here because we just kind of, we don't want to just be shills. We don't want to be up here selling the merch that is the podcast that you're currently listening to. But if you could do that, that would help out. I've been very happy. Again, I don't look at the numbers. You handle all the back end of the stuff, but getting emails like we have been getting and like running into people, like I said last week when Willie Bostick just took a moment to tell me how much he likes the podcast, it means a lot. I'm glad that people are learning a little something from the podcast, or at least appreciating our takes on things. And let's keep it going.
Hell yeah. Well, I just got a text message from our wives saying, please rate and review, please plug the podcast. So do that. Keep us happy. Happy wives, happy lives. Is that right?
That's what I've always heard. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening. Go get that meat and bones.
Meat and bones.